Welcome back to Healing Mindset. I am Nazish, and tonight we are diving into a conversation many people quietly struggle with, doing everything right on their healing journey and yet feeling like nothing is changing. I am joined by incredible Samantha Kane, a healing practitioner whose work blends with depth, honesty, and grounded emotional wisdom. Her approach reminds us that healing isn't a checklist, it is a relationship with our inner world. And sometimes what feels like a failure is actually a sign that we are ready to look deeper, not harder. So tonight's conversation will challenge assumptions, reveal blind spots, and invite a more empowered way of understanding your own transformation. So, Samantha, welcome to Healing Mindset, and I'm so glad you are here.
Thank you so much, Nazish. I appreciate being here today.
That is amazing. So, Samantha, when people feel that they're doing all the right things and yet nothing seems to shift, what do you find is usually the root of that stagnation?
The root of stagnation is just not allowing breath into our lives. We are rushing around, we're doing things unconsciously or subconsciously, rather. We're not thinking about what we're doing. We are walking around mindlessly, really. And when we do that, it creates stagnancy and disruption where we're so connected to distraction rather than what's really going on in reality. So we're causing abruptness, we're causing abrasiveness, we're causing blinders to be on, and we are disconnecting rather than connecting ourselves. And obviously, that's really a problem because we don't want to go about our lives so rushed and so fast paced and not noticing the gifts that are there for us and not connecting properly and aligning ourselves to things that we want to.
Samantha, that is such a compassionate way to frame it, and it really invites people to stop blaming themselves and start looking beneath the surface.
Yeah.
So, was there a moment in your own journey where where your healing felt like it wasn't working until you uncovered the real block?
Yes, many times. Many times. For one example would be um during the COVID pandemic when the world kind of shut down, so to speak, and I was shutting down parts of myself. At the same time, I was re-entering new territory. I was in a moment of time where I was alone with a newborn and I was trying to decipher and decode what in the world do I do with this life, with myself, because it was a brand new area where it was uncharted territory. I didn't really know what I was doing with motherhood. That was brand new. But also at the same time, I was like, what is going on with the world? So there was a lot of duality happening in the external and then as well as mirroring the internal. Usually it's what is happening inside reflects the outside, right? But in this case, the world took us by storm and we all had no choice but to look in and reflect. So it was kind of the opposite. We were shaken and awakened, many of us, at least I was. And I used it as an opportunity for massive healing. That was probably one of the biggest healing aspects, or times of my life. There were many revelations. There was a lot of reflection, and it was a very beautiful time, even through all the pain. But it was a great learning experience because we tend to just feel cornered when we're in moments of shifting instead of surrendering to it and trusting that we're being held and we should just flow with it. And so eventually that's what I did. But during it, that was very tricky. So it takes time, but it's all about the mindset and remembering that, we're here for good reason, we're here for purpose, and that we should all want to connect um, to higher source and to a higher way of living instead of other ways that all these distractions try to bog us down with.
That is some very beautiful honesty, and I feel like this is the honesty that our listeners are also wanting to hear, to see, to and it also gives our listeners permission to explore what's underneath their efforts rather than just feeling discouraged by them. So, Samantha, thank you so much for this honesty. And I believe a lot of people approach healing primarily from mind, reading, analyzing, journaling, but the body often holds the resistance. How do you recognize when the body, not the mind, is carrying the block?
Great question. So, the biggest thing you can do, the best thing you can do is pay attention to how it feels. If you're not intentional with your moves, then it's not going to align. There's going to be friction and you're going to feel that. So, when you're trying to do something and you feel like this doesn't feel right, that's all you need to know. That's it. When you know just that, that's enough. And then you can move on with better choices, different choices, a different path. Like, okay, this isn't the best choice. What else is there? But when you are trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, that's not going to work. So you have to go inside, and it's not like you have to go that deep. It's really literally in almost like a surface feeling because your gut tells you so. And that's where instinct helps you align with your intentionality. And that's really the key to take away is how does this feel when I'm trying to make a move? Does this feel right? And I'm not talking about uncomfortability because that's going to happen. That's a given. I'm talking about um does this resonate? Does this sit well with me? Do I have an instinct that's loud enough telling me this isn't the way to go? Or is the instinct saying there's a better way?
That is so beautiful, and the way you describe it is also something that I can relate with, and something I can feel that there's a lot to understand from this. So, just something that, do you find people tend to underestimate the emotional memory their body carries?
Yes. And we call it annoyance, or we call it that that darn pain. And then we get angry that we have pain. And the thing is that we can't um, get so caught up in the fact that we have pain or we have hurt or we're in a moment of misery or disappointment. We have to hold that, hold space for it and respect it. Respect those moments. Because there's no way to get away from any emotional things that happen in our life, and they are going to be stored in our body. And so to answer your question, exactly, we do underestimate what happens in our bodies. We often bypass what's happening because we get so annoyed or distracted with with a symptom of something or the victimhood of something, like the why me, that kind of thing, that we get carried away instead of focusing on the very thing that we should be focusing on, which is the thing that's right in front of us. Well, why is this happening? And is this happening to me or is it happening for me? What should I ask about this? Because there's always something behind the scenes. Things aren't always what they seem. They look different than than maybe they are. You know, pain can present itself as something, and again, we get so caught up, but there's a reason that pain is happening. Pain is a messenger, or it doesn't have to be pain. It could be depression or sadness or disappointment, whatever emotion it is. But we do carry it in our physical body, and we go throughout life and we go, why can't I lose this weight? Or why do I always have headaches? Or, why am I so dehydrated? Or, why am I not strong enough? I'm working out all the time. It's because we go through life not paying attention to the other facets of what we're doing. And as soon as we start to pay attention a little bit more and focus on the right things and prioritize, then everything can fall into place and we can have more of a balance of mind, body, soul.
This insight really offers a new lens for us to look at a lot of things.
We can figure and we can get back on track. So I would say, yes, self awareness is very important, but yes, we can get caught up in ourselves. We can get trapped in our own minds. We overthink and overdo or overperform instead of just sitting and allowing ourselves to be present with whatever we're dealing with and then move from there.
That is actually beautiful, and I feel like this nuance is so important. Many of our listeners will recognize themselves in a pattern of thinking instead of like feeling.
Yeah.
So, have you seen people use inner work as a shield to avoid deeper vulnerability?
Uh, I've seen most people just avoid the inner work. Or what I see from my personal experience through my work and through just personally, people I know and myself, I see either people avoiding the work completely and bypassing or saying this is almost just as bad, saying they're doing the work and they're actually not. If you don't slow down and focus on a few things or even just one, then we can't match that energy and we can't give you and guide you the way that you want. So it's about not overcomplicating things. It's about simplifying and then following the flow there.
And I feel like hearing you say all these things with so much compassion rather than judgment can spark so much in a lot of people who feel stuck but they can't pinpoint why.
Yeah. Yeah. And really the why is just facing yourself. It's just being honest. And that's it. It's hard, but that is what is needed to get through something instead of avoiding.
It is actually very true. So I have heard you talk a lot about alignment. So what does misalignment look like for someone who genuinely believes like they're doing the work?
Okay. So misalignment would mean going back to that feeling. It's where something is off. It doesn't feel on brand. And I don't mean that literally. I mean, it can if we're talking from a business standpoint, but I'm talking about it feels off, like you are off your game. There's a mismatch in communication or energy, or an outcome with something because of the way you're moving. When you shift in certain ways, it better be purposeful and intentional and matched. The energy behind it needs to be matched with your intent. Otherwise, it's not going to land properly. And taking it a step further than that, sometimes people feel, well, more often than not, not just sometimes, people feel the energy on the other side and they can read energy despite words or despite actions. We read each other's energy. So if you are not working on feeling into yourself and feeling your energy, like what you present to people, how you move, how you act, the way you do things, if you're not aligned with who you are and presenting yourself as an authentic being, then it'll show. it'll show to other people, but then it'll also show to yourself because um, the external world won't match what you really want. And that doesn't feel good. So again, it all goes back to energy. It's in the feeling and then you know it because eventually you'll see it play out on the other side and you'll go, "Oh no, I didn't mean to have an outcome like this. I meant it a different way. So okay, this is a lesson and now I know what to do differently next time."
That really paints a clearer picture for all of us, and it also helps us identify the gap between the intention and the embodiment. So that was very beautifully explained, I must say. Small grounded shift can feel so much better to someone who's silently struggling. So Samantha, your depth and clarity have given such a gift today to for us and for all our listeners today. So Samantha, thank you for shedding such light on the overlooked layers of why healing can feel stagnant and how people can reclaim their power in the process. And to everyone listening right now, healing isn't about pace, perfection, or pressure. It is about truth, alignment, and the willingness to meet yourself honestly. So today, take one step, for even the smallest shift can change the entire direction of your journey. Until next time, I am Nazish, and this is Healing Mindset.